when I started to listen to what he spoke about life and death, it was the first person that made complete sense to me. Until that point, nobody could really explain the whole process of life and death as clearly as he could, at least to me.
I'm AJ and welcome to Zen Minds, an ongoing conversation with spiritual seekers on their path to Zen. My goal with this podcast is to introduce you to different spiritual practices and programs through direct contact with seekers who have found these programs deeply transformative. I hope this conversation will encourage and motivate you to find your own path to Zen. My guest today is William Watkins, who tells his exciting story from bondage and addiction to freedom. This particular episodes, we will focus on the 21-day program, also known as the 21-day Sadhana. Sadhana is a Sanskrit word, means discipline undertaken in pursuit of a goal. Sadhguru defines sadhana as everything can be sadhana. The way you eat, the way you sit, the way you stand, breathe, and conduct your mind, body, and your energies and emotions. This is sadhana. Sadhana does not really mean anything specific kind of activity. Sadhana just means that you're using everything as a tool for your well-being. Enjoy the show. All right, namaskaram, Will. Welcome to Zen Minds.
Namaskaram. Thanks for having me, Arvind. Good to see you.
Definitely. It's exciting to talk to you. I've been thinking about this podcast for a very long time, so I'm glad to have you.
For sure. Happy to be here.
So before we begin on to the question and answer, why don't you give us a little bit about your childhood, your background, how you grew up?
I grew up in Mumbai, India. I lived there till I was 21. And I grew up in a pretty conservative Christian family, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But right from the beginning, I did not resonate with my family in terms of their religious beliefs. I'd go to church every Sunday, but I just didn't quite feel right to me there. So when I got to high school, I turned atheist,
Rebel?
and I said, "There's,
Okay, atheist.
I don't believe in God. There's
Right.
nothing out there. There is no higher power. It just doesn't exist." When I got into a junior college, that's about 11th grade or so, I got into a thrash metal band, playing all kinds of tracks against God and religion and all of that, really
True rebel, huh?
underground. Yeah, exactly. So that was my early days. I was not spiritual, not religious, completely, off on my own. Before I got married in 2013, a close friend of mine insisted that I do the 10-day Vipassana program. He said that
Yeah.
I absolutely have to do it before I get married.
Oh, yeah.
You just got to go there and be with
I'm-
yourself.
I'm a big fan of Vipassana, by the way. I have done several of these, maybe four of Vipassana, and I absolutely dig it. I mean, that is something, if you're really interested in meditation,
Yeah.
that is a way to start, right? It's
Yeah.
so much mental, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was my first dip into this space. Until that point in time, I had never sat to meditate. I never did any. I did not do any form of yoga. It was just straight away, boom, 10 days, right?
Yeah.
So I go
And how did
there.
you even manage to sit for 10 days? Because one of the biggest challenges,
Right.
what I've heard is that, unlike in the 21-day sadhana, I mean, in this 10-day meditation, it's you gotta sit for 6 to 8 hours, right? I mean, that's all sitting. It's not moving. It is tough for people who haven't sat that long.
Oh yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
But when I went into it, I told myself, no matter what happens, I'm going to be here for 10 days. I don't
Yeah.
care what happens to me. I'm not going to
Right.
leave this. I want to see it through. And that's it. I
Yeah.
made up my mind that I'm just going to be there for 10 days and do what they tell me. And actually, when I got there, it was pretty nice. It was the first time I said, wow, I can live in nature. I don't have to speak to anyone, don't have to check my
Yeah.
email, don't have to call anyone, can't watch TV, can't listen to radio. And right away felt like this is, something cool and something different, because until that point I just been going nonstop, going really hard, and this was like a big pause button, right?
Yeah.
And I'm about to get married to this girl who I met 4 years ago, and we are now going to you know uh, tie ourselves together. So I said I need to do something about it before I take this big step, right?
Yeah. Do whatever you
So
want before you get married, right?
um, so the first day was nice. I would say the first session was nice, but then, as you said, you're just sitting and then your legs start aching and your back starts aching, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh man. But the food was great, and I was slightly uncomfortable by the end of the first day, but then the mind game started. Day two, day three. I think by day four, at day five, it had reached its peak, because for the first time, I could actually feel that I was able to observe what's happening on
Yeah.
the mental level. And until that point in time, this had never happened to me. I was always
Right.
in my mind, had no separation between who I am and the mind. So that drove me crazy. I thought I was losing it. I thought I was going insane. But I just kind of held on, and I did what they told us to do at each step, and just took it session by session, right? It was really hard. Day five, I still remember, I was just close to saying, no, I just got to leave. I just can't take this anymore. I just hung on there,
That happens
and
with every kind of camp, like be it meditation or yoga camp. In fact, it happened with me on the 21-day sadhana as
oh,
well.
really?
But
Interesting.
yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Then day six, something magical happened. For the first
Right.
time, I think, in my whole life, I felt all of my mental activity stop. And it was an unbelievable experience. It was like, I just felt like someone is pouring. It felt like I was standing under a fountain and just feeling so much, like feeling a cascade of flow from
Yeah.
somewhere into me. And I was like, wow, this feels amazing. This is just, whew, wow.
Yeah.
From there on, everything was just really magical. I could hear things which otherwise were there, but I couldn't hear. I could see things that otherwise was there, like, but I couldn't see it. I was seeing everything in a new way. I was hearing everything in a new way. I really felt a big shift within me, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is fantastic. Uh,
So from vipassana to like yoga, like when did that shift happen, and was that enough, or were you longing for something more than what vipassana was offering?
so I did the practice for about 6 months, every day. I didn't even skip a day. I was doing my practice every day. But even then, I couldn't quite sustain what I felt when I went for the program, right? I
Yeah.
couldn't really get the same feeling. I couldn't have the same experience. And after 6 months, I just gave up. From there on, it took me 2 years to find something that really worked for me, right? So in those 2 years, I read a lot of books, dug through all of the books I could find, read teachings from both Eastern and Western masters. Did like a lot of like searching, tried different techniques, tried different like YouTube things, and
Right.
did a whole bunch of things. But my seeking was still on like a pretty casual, like curiosity level. It wasn't I need to know this now like level. It was still pretty mild. I would just keep trying something, try it and then give it up. Keep trying, keep giving it up. So I did that for
Right.
about 2 years. And then 2015, December 5th,
Yeah.
2014, December 4th. Yeah, because 5th is my wife's birthday, December 4th. A close friend of mine passed away in a car accident. He was just gone. He was in California, and we were really tight, really close pals. And he was part of the same subculture, right, where we would consume substances, dance all night on like the beaches of Goa and in jungles, and have these really amazing experiences. Um, and a part of this subculture was that we would have um, like a Shiva statue in the middle, and we would all dance around them all night on like full moons. Right? We had the Lord of Dance
Okay.
as our mascot, and we would
Yeah.
have like a DJ, and he would blast music, and we would all dance intoxicated. Sometimes for days, we would be like on it for days, just like dancing in the jungle, like it's crazy. And this guy was just gone. He was like, whew. And that's when my seeking kind of turned from a curiosity to I need to understand life and death right now. I'm not waiting for tomorrow. I'm not mildly curious. I'm going to give everything I have to
Yeah.
know something more about life and something more about death and where do we go after life and all of these big questions that I always had, but no one really was able to answer. And I had a Nataraja statue at my home, and I just said, I fall at your feet, Lord Shiva, and I need some answers right now. And then I started to search, and right then and there, I wanted to do something for a Mahashivratri coming up because I knew like
Right.
Mahashivratri is coming up in a month or two, and I said I want to do something big for Mahashivratri. I just want to do something big, and I just want to connect with Shiva and connect with that. Just I didn't know how,
Right.
and I was on Facebook and I saw a Sadhguru video about Shivanga Sadhana. This was in 2015. So right then and there, I signed up for the sadhana. And prior to that, I had no contact with Sadhguru. I did not know anything about who he was, what he did. But when I started to listen to what he spoke about life and death, it was the first person that made complete sense to me. Until that point, nobody could really explain the whole process of life and death as clearly as he could, at least to me. I tried to read
Right.
about this. I tried to listen various masters, and everybody kind of made sense. But I was like, but it kind of either went up. I didn't really quite get it, or it was too esoteric, or it was too like mumbo jumbo. But everything he said was like, wow, this makes sense, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I said, okay, I'm going to sign up for the sadhana. And so for this sadhana, I had to go to India. Actually, I had to do a 42-day process. There was like some sadhana steps. And after that, I had to culminate the sadhana, travel to India. So that was my first visit to the yoga center in February 2015.
So that
So
was
that is,
42
yeah,
days?
yeah,
Was that
exactly, yeah.
42 days long?
Yeah, yeah. No, so you
Wow.
do the sadhana at home. Basically,
Okay, okay, I see.
yeah,
So very
you
similar to the inner engineering course when you have it, you can do a part of it online today, and
correct.
then you
Yeah,
can complete it in front of like a teacher,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly. So the 42 days. So actually, this was my first contact with like Isha and Sadhguru even before I did inner engineering. I learned the process, and then I went to India. And going to the ashram was just wow. It just, I really felt at home being there. I felt like I stumbled onto something that I've been searching for a long time. And I was like, this
Right.
is amazing.
Like a
Just right away.
coming home kind of a feeling, right?
Exactly.
Especially
Yeah.
after when you're searching for that so long. That is
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, so tell me a little bit about how did you land up with the 21-day sadhana? I mean, that's how I met you, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember you fondly. as a Shiva guy. I mean, the way you embrace Shiva meditation so dearly, it's very good to see. So tell me, how did that happen, and how did you land up in the 21 day?
Yeah, for sure. So 2015 was my first step into Isha, and then shortly thereafter I also did email engineering, got initiated into Shambhavi. And when I did Shambhavi, it was for me, it was a very like subtle process. I didn't have any big like experience or any fireworks or anything. There were like people around me like screaming and shouting, and for me, I almost felt nothing. It was very subtle.
Right.
But I stuck with the process. I did not skip it. I did my practices every single day, and I kept like building up on that, right? So every year, I added one practice. So after I did Shambhavi in 2015, I added Surya Kriya later that year. Next year, I added Angamardana. Year after that, I added Shakti Chalana Kriya and Shunya. Year after that, I added yogasanas. So
Wow.
basically, every year I kept adding it, but I didn't drop my practices, right? I
How long
stuck
does
to
it
it.
take to do all of these practices? I mean, just the yogasanas
Yeah,
takes me about an hour and a half. Like,
right.
how long does
Yeah.
it take for you?
I mean, during Sadhana Pada, I keep aside around 3 hours for practices.
Oh, wow.
During after that, the other 6 months, it kind of comes down to about 2 hours or so. So that's
So
usually my
about,
practice
right.
window.
So you
Yeah,
start and then finish, and that's about 2 hours. And then do
yeah,
you do that
yeah.
in the morning or the
Yeah, in the
evening or?
morning. Mostly in the
Right.
mornings. Sometimes if I skip it, then try to like do what I can in the morning and afternoon, try to catch up. Thanks to my wife, she's been extremely supportive. You know,
Yeah.
trying to like make sure that I get it done because she knows what this has done to me. She's seen how I have shifted, and then when she's been practicing, so she knows what this can do. So it's only been possible with her help.
No, definitely. I think,
Yeah,
you need to have the family
yeah,
part of this as well.
exactly.
And
Yeah, yeah,
then the 21 day sadhana is not easy, right? I mean, it's kind of hard for, especially for people who are trying to start some kind of a sadhana. So,
yeah.
how was your experience with that? I mean, was it easy for you to get into the 21 day sadhana, even though you have done all these before?
It was actually for me, this felt like a really great opportunity for me to really like deepen all my practices. I not once felt like I want to go away. In fact, I was like, wow, this is such a blessing to be able to not worry about anything, not worry about my family, work, nothing, just kind of
As much as I
soak into
love
this.
them, right? As much as I
Exactly.
love
As
them,
much as I love
can
them,
I
as
just
much
keep it
as,
aside, that
yeah, yeah.
chapter of my life a little bit?
Yeah, I was like my wife said that just go and do your thing, and I was
Yeah.
super grateful for her. And it really felt like a blessed time to be able to spend 3 weeks inside Mahima and soak up all the energies of the space and everything that is there at the center. It really was special for me. It didn't feel like my first a 10-day thing where after 5 days I wanted to go away. This every
Yeah.
day was like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. I just can't like, I just can't have enough. It was really special. But just to dial back a little bit more, like to when you asked me how did I get to this point, right? So every day, as I was saying, I mean, every year I added a new practice, and what happened is last year during COVID, my system took a huge toll. It's because I've been trading online for the last 3 years. I've been trading for myself and going through a lot of losses doing that. And as my financial losses kept mounting, my system started taking a huge battering. And it's like I kind of got into what they call gambler's predicament where you're so addicted to what you're doing that you keep going back even though you know that
Right.
you're losing, right?
Yeah. You still think
And
that you have a chance, right?
exactly, still think I can make it like all up, and
Right.
I can do this. And the reason I was doing this is because really I wanted to. get away from having a job that took me away from my family, basically,
Yep.
right? So what happened was when we were living in New York City, as we spoke, I led a very fast-paced life, working for Bloomberg, working for a big company, and then we knew that my son was going to be born soon. So we said, okay,
Yeah.
we are going to move away from the big city, move to where my wife is from. She's from a small town in Western Mass. So we took a huge jump from there, from living in a fast-paced city to living out here in the woods in the middle of nowhere. And that was only possible because I kind of had the foundation of Shambhavi with me. I felt like no matter where I go, I can make things happen and I will
Right.
succeed thanks to the power of the practice. So really, we took these big steps because we had a strong foundation of the practices. So
Right.
we moved here, and then initially for a few, I think no, actually I found a job right away, but the job was in Boston, so I had to commute a really long commute to like make this work. But I said, okay, I'll try this for a year, keep this going for a year, uh, make some money because that gig paid very well. Make some money, and then I'll try and settle down here in the woods. So did that for a year, and then I realized, okay, my son is 1 year old now, and I've been away from home quite a bit, and I want to change that. So I said, okay, I'm going to take some time off and build up skill sets where I can find remote work. Now, once again, this step was only possible because I had the strong foundation of the practices. I was like, I'm just going to do this,
Right.
find something where I can work from home. So I got into blockchain and crypto because of this in 2018. I read everything about it, tried to learn as much as I could, and then landed a job at a crypto startup in 2018. I was employee number 4, and it was great. I could work from home. I could set
Yeah.
my own schedule. The company was growing. It was awesome. Uh, so that happened, and while that happened, I also began to trade on my own. So I had two things going. I had my a full-time kind of gig, and I also had my own thing going in the hope that someday I don't have to work long hours and I can kind of have more time to be with family, right? So in this process, I kind of like burnt myself out last year, as things really went south. It was brutal, and we didn't know actually that my health had tanked so badly because of this initially. Initially, we thought it was
Right.
like Lyme disease, or I got like a tick bite somewhere, or maybe something I'm eating. It was a long process of trying to figure out what was going on till in December before my son's birthday. I really felt this intervention that, hey, dude, just stop what you're doing, stop this like trading nonsense that you
Yeah.
are trying to go at every day and trying to catch up and make up. Just stop it. I really felt like I almost felt like Sadhguru had like just come and like put a big hammer on my head, saying, "Dude, just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop what you're doing right now." Okay, okay.
Right.
It's my son's birthday tomorrow. I won't look at charts. I won't look at any I won't look at anything. I won't look at the price because the thing is with a crypto, because it is a 24/7 market, there's always something happening. You can always want to check the price and see what's happening. It's a
Right.
very addictive thing, right?
Yeah. And
So,
apart from whatever that field is, it's the mind which creates that hook, right? I mean, that's
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
like, people can get addicted to like substance or, food or whatever that might be. It's not so much as what we call that the other is, it's
Right,
just the mind which we have, right? So
right.
it's important to just take a break from that, and then sometimes you need a divine intervention, it's help
Yeah,
to break that connection or bring
absolutely.
that little distance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, totally. No, I mean, as you said, prior to this, I was addicted to substances. I was kind of addicted to porn as well, to be honest. But because of practice, all these things fell away. I had just like vaporized, mate. It was all gone because the sheer power of practices. But I think the same addictive kind of circuit like manifests in different ways.
Right.
Maybe initially it's food, and then it's like substances like cigarettes or alcohol or like whatever, and then it's something else. But as each thing falls away, it finds a manifestation in like a different thing, and then you're hooked onto that, right? So
Right.
this was the
It's
new hook
the
for me. Yeah.
Right. The important part is that how you channelize that addiction into a proper direction, right? I mean, so if
Yeah.
the instead of actually blaming on the addiction, the question, the opportunity to see that as is, I have an extreme focus, right?
Yeah.
Once I get hooked onto it, like I'm really deep into it. The question is like, if that is my way of thinking, how can I direct that towards something which is positive and creative? And
Right.
that's what you were able to do that through all the practices, or at least it gave you a direction to look into and explore that as an opportunity, right? I mean, that is something which probably the others might be wondering as well. Like, we all have these small kind of addictions, you could call it, right? I mean, they may not be the addiction like what we see normally in the TVs, but it's the small little things like guilty pleasures we have. And the question is, it's okay to have that, right? The question is that how you turn that small little guilty pleasures into something which is more creative, more productive, and how can you change oneself, right? I mean, once the individual gets changed, I think the surrounding gets changed as well, right? I mean, it starts first with individual, and then people start who are close by, they start seeing that change. Your kids, your family, your wife actually see that change, and that's how it sort of spreads, right? I mean, it doesn't spread through like teaching, like telling somebody to do certain thing, right? It's just like they see that change in you, and they wonder, it's like, what are you, what are you smoking?
Yeah.
What is changing in your life? And I want to have what you just had, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's the way to do that, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about, so with all these things in the background of yours, the one thing which I'm noticing is there is an extreme sense of longing in you, right? I mean, that's what's driving you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're not settled, right? I mean, the way you're thinking about, like you try and then you want to, so there's a lot of energy sort of, which is like trying to find a way out, which is very different than mine. Mine doesn't have a lot of energy, which is more exterior. It's more interior driven. Like I'm more like a Vipassana guy, right? I mean, when you're picking up practices, you want to see what actually works for you.
Right.
For me, Vipassana provides me much more deeper conversation within myself. Not to say that and I don't appreciate the yogasana. Yogasana tells me how I can be mindful of my everyday body, things which are happening inside and outside. How can I be focused on my breath all day long, not just only during meditation? It's all day long, and really have to see it's like what external factors actually changes my breath, right? I mean, and then the beauty of the yogasana is that they teach you all that stuff, that how can you, in the midst of all the challenges which are happening around you, if you focus back on your breath, suddenly you feel that you could be in control. Because most of the time we feel that we are powerless and we don't have anything to say in this, and everything is external and I can't control that. I can control that person. But the only thing we can control is ourselves, right? And that our breath to begin with, right? And ourselves, and that's the breath. And then that's the starting point. And then once we are able to settle on our breath, things sort of like changes, right? And so reflecting on all that stuff, and then you going through all these different practices. So when you landed on the 21 day, was that anything different than what you had done in the past? Or what was the turning point, if there was any, right? When you came back with all the challenges you had and you did
Right.
this 21 day, what changed?
Yeah. So walking into like Mahima, right? The very first time I walked into Mahima, I walked
Yeah,
into it like, completely feeling weak and battered by everything that was going on. The thing is, even though I had all these tough things happen to me, I kept my practices along. Thanks to
yeah,
my wife, she really like helped me with this, and she like made sure that I made time for it. So I didn't skip or like didn't drop my practices. That was still going on, but it felt like every day I would gas up my system in the morning, and within a couple of hours, it's all gone. I'm like a
yeah,
heap. So I felt like that. But the moment I step into Mahima, it felt like I'd stepped into this zone of high energy, and just instantly it amped up my
yeah,
system in a big way. I just felt like, wow, I'm swimming in this sea of energy. And I just felt like my system so badly needed this. It was unbelievable. I immediately felt like, okay, whew, I'm glad I made it here. It
yeah,
almost felt like I couldn't breathe, and now I can breathe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And as as the sadhana unfolded, really what I noticed is that uh, every time I did a practice that I already had done before, it was just a much deeper experience of the same practice. Like really being able to feel different energy centers within me before didn't have any awareness of these centers. Or I couldn't feel them as like powerfully. Basically,
right.
2015 when I first did inland engineering, I couldn't feel any energy center or anything flowing within me. It was just everything was so physical, and everything was just so
Yeah,
dense within me that I had no experience of anything flowing, anything moving, anything energetic. But right now it's like I could feel different centers throbbing within me and pulsing, and it's just an incredible feeling. And everything they did there just elevated things to the next level. Like for example, like the simple Guru Puja that was done every day. Just sitting for Guru Puja was like putting gas in my tank in the morning. It's like before you start your practices, just like rev up your system and get ready for the day. It was just really incredible.
honestly, when I went into this program, I had I went through very similar kind of like feeling that I really wanted to do something, and then so I applied for the teacher training program, and then the COVID hit and visa problems and all these challenges, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do something different. Like I didn't want to do like a 10 day because I knew that 10 day does not give you any kind of growth, be it with Vipassana or any other thing. So I was looking for something longer, and so I ended up seeing what Sadhguru had to offer. But when I did this 21 day sadhana, I was really hoping to get something out of it. And 21 day was like really long. I knew that, and going into it, I would get something out of it. And then I walk in, and then there was all these things were there, and then honestly, I wanted to do yogasana. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. Like that energy was like, I need to bend. Before, like I was like a brittle stick. I couldn't bend. And I struggled. I had energies blocked. I mean, the way I call it energies, like I don't feel them, but I would see that my leg is like a little odd, or my body feels a little awkward here. So I had these knots in my body in several places, and I could feel them. It's like that doesn't feel like proper. And so I had all these challenges, and I couldn't even bend and tie my lace. I'm not overweight, honestly, by any means, but
Yeah.
I had this weight distribution which was so odd in my whole thing. And then I want to just get out of it. And so one of my challenges was really I need to take care of my body. Like right? People are dying like every single day, to your point, like, you're living today, tomorrow you're dead. They don't give you notifications. And I really wanted to take care of my body. And so that was the only way to say, okay, I need to do something like yogasana. And then there wasn't any 21-day yogasana offered in the US. Only this sadhana was being offered. So long story short, I walk in, everything is great. I'm excited to be here. But in my first week was miserable, honestly. I wasn't as pumped as I should be. I come in here, but I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Sadhguru and he's talking and I'm just like, okay, I maybe not subscribe to that. I don't think that is. So my inner mind is still working, right? That's still debating with, I don't understand this. I don't agree to this. That is not right. I wouldn't do it this way. So that background noise is still there for me for about a week. And then after a week, something really, I had to really address that. So the way I addressed is like, okay, like nobody asked you to come here. Nobody. It was me. So if I feel so strongly about it, I have a chance. I can quit and leave. If not, shut up, suck it up, whatever it is, and go through this process, right? And so that's why I realized at that time is like, I'm in this constant blaming mode, right? That's what I was. I was complaining about things. I was holding people responsible for my misery. And in this case, I was doing exactly the same. I come here, I sign up, I pay the money, I fly here, and then I blame Sadhguru for all that. Like, really? Like, how stupid is that, right? And so that I had to just take a back seat and said, okay, if I got to do it, I got to do it his way or no way, right? He's saying, give me a chance, do this, right? And then if you like it, continue. If not, find something else. Like, there are thousands of people who try, doesn't work, they do something else, right? He's not compelling you. There is no bondage here. And so that's what happened, right? After that week, that whole resistance in me sort of dropped. And I think when the resistance dropped, like that's when the absorptions begin. And then I became more receptive to all the practices. I grew up in a Hindu tradition. Like, I have a very strong, spiritual practices coming from my mom, and I've been doing meditation for very long. So I am very deep into meditation, but not so much in the so-called any of these, if I could even use the word ritualistic, right? Like pujas and bhakti sadhana. And those are like, my mom has been encouraging me from very childhood, like, you got to do bhakti sadhana. That is the way to do it. It's easy. It doesn't take a lot of your brain and logics, and it's just surrender. And then when you surrender, things happen. And so I was not into that for a very long time. But, so many things starts to happen. The reason for me telling all this thing is like, we all have, issues or, conditionings in life, good or bad, whatever that might be. Doesn't really matter where you come from, what religious background you may have, what educational background you may have. But we still have all these challenges in life. And if we have to overcome those challenges, one needs to really give a shot to some of the technologies, engineering as Sadhguru calls it. Give a chance. Give a chance, right? Go with an open mind. It's okay to have that kind of a feeling of negativity. But you got to go through that cycle. And that's where the magic really happens, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about your magic. Did you have any deeper experience? I know you said that when you came to the Mahima Hall, you felt like you have sort of arrived, and then you could just dedicate the rest of the 21 days into the sadhana. But did you have any peak experiences during that 21 days?
I didn't have any peak experiences here because, not because. So my experience of this was that just every day, my system just felt like it's getting revved up one notch higher and one notch higher and higher and higher and higher. So it like wasn't this one peak experience or something, you know. It was just every day was like higher, 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 higher. And by day 21, I look back and see, oh my God, my system just feels so different. You know, both my physical system, like my physical body,
Yeah.
energy body, my mind is clear, emotions are sweet, everything is just to its
Liberated.
peak, to its peak, right? So I didn't quite have, I've had this happen to me before where I'm sitting with Sadhguru and I have this peak experience, but it did happen to me this time. This time during this 3 week sadhana, it
Yeah.
was like a slow build up, slow build up, slow build up, slow build up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was my experience.
Right. I mean, it's
Yeah,
to your point. I mean, it's not even necessary to have the peak experience, right? I mean, that is something which is important for everybody
right,
to understand. If some people come and say, well, I'm really looking for something exciting to happen in this,
right,
maybe not. Come with an open mind, try it out. It's just like watering a seed, right? I mean, you water, 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 and then you say, well, nothing germinated. You got to give time. And I think
yeah,
and even the expectation that germination is equal to peak experience is incorrect, right? The question is,
yeah,
you get what you long for, right? I mean, whatever that is, if that is what you're getting, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't have to be in words, doesn't have to be in an experience where people can understand. It's just that internal being of yours. If you feel rejuvenated, you feel, if your thirst is quenched, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's the longing which you were talking about. And you come and you feel like you have arrived, and then you let your guards down, and then suddenly
yeah,
you feel like what is that feeling? The feeling is nothing of peak. In fact, that feeling is of letting go, right? I mean, as you let go everything, then that sort of relaxation is something which people can experience in these. So, Will, for people who are interested in doing these 21-day sadhana, right? So one of the things we need to also caution them, saying, okay, there are different experiences. Like for you, you come in excited and then like, yes, this is what I want to do. And somebody like me who can come with like a past conditioning, and they may actually go through these kinds of experiences. But in the end, everybody should take a little bit of time to spend with someone like Master, like Sadhguru here, and then be in his vicinity and go through the program for your own being. It's very hard to explain what you gained through an experience unless you go through yourself. It's not the words which can describe. It's
right.
only in a personal experience, right? So how do you encourage people? I mean, how do you tell people that come take this? This is something you gotta do for your life.
Well, I can say that based on what you've told me and based on what I've heard from a few other people who also did the program, I feel like everybody who goes through the program is met where they are and they are given exactly what they need at that point in their life. So maybe you've done a bunch of sadhana and you have a strong foundation and you come here and boom, it's like the next level. Or maybe you've just started doing your practices and this sadhana is a great way to really dig deep into your practices. I would say, regardless of what's your background or where you come from or like what level of sadhana you have, this is the best investment that you can make for yourself, the best assurance that you can have that no matter what life throws at you, you can face it head on.
Yeah,
Uh, Speaking for myself, basically, right now I am still trading, but in a much different way from what I was doing last
yeah,
year. In fact,
right.
I quit my full time job because the trading business, which I'm doing with my wife right now, is doing well for us and I don't have to go to work anymore. I don't have to spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day with Sadhguru's grace. As he said, one shouldn't have to earn a living 12 hours a day. One should be able to like do that very quickly, and then focus yourself on your spiritual or whatever other thing you want to do. And that's only happened because of the power of the practices and Sadhguru's grace. So, to those listening out there, I would highly encourage you to take this step because it can really do wonders for you. Once you shift things within you, things outside automatically arrange themselves in a way that best suits your growth and your well being. So don't try to change too much what's outside of your influence. Change what you can. And the best thing that you can do for yourself, take these take a step like this, take 3 weeks off, learn some really powerful practices, and then keep them going every single day because as Sadhguru says, if you try to dig a well and you want to hit water, right, you want to keep digging in the same spot. If you start to dig a hole here for a few days and then give up and then go somewhere and dig a
Yeah,
hole and then come back and then go here, you're not going to really hit the water, right? So
very true.
I also like went through a phase where I tried to find water in like different places, tried different practices, but once I found Sadhguru and as you said, I had a peak experience with him. It was almost me like, wanting to know as a child, asking its parent, like, "Hey, can you show me this?" I was asking him, "Hey, can you show me what you can do?" And he like, answered me in a way. I think what they call it as like Shakti Path or whatever. He just boom. I knew that's it, man. That's it. You are my
Yeah.
master. All my
Yeah.
questions vaporized. I said, I have no more questions for you. I'm just going to do exactly what you tell me. If you tell me stand on my head, I'll stand on my head. I have no questions for you. I'm just going to do everything you want me to.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been an incredible journey. It's just like I really can't explain in words. So yeah, I would say that if you find that you resonate with Sadhguru and his work and his practices work for you, just dig yourself deep into it, go into it as much as you can, and things will happen in the most wonderful way.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very sound advice. And in fact, even if you don't subscribe to all his ideas, you got to give a shot. I was reading one of his book. He said, your mind may play games, but your body does not lie. Your body always tells you the truth. And that's the experiential truth, right? So I may not like what he's talking, what he may say, but if I do and I get the results, then I have to forget about all the things which I mentally process, right? So it is important for all the viewers and listeners to really take some time to begin with for your own self, and then take these classes and courses which are offered, which are really good for your own self, and then for your rest of the family as well. Right? It has been awesome chatting with you, and best of luck, and it was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
Arvind. Thanks for having me. Really happy to chat with you, and all the best to you as well.